Hi, my name is Uwe Diegel and I'm the Managing Director of MedActive, which is a company that specializes in the transport and storage of thermosensitive medication. Now today we're going to talk about a pretty cool subject, which is the transport of insulin when you travel. There's a lot of misconceptions around there, urban legends, people telling you that it's absolutely fragile, you have to keep it between 2 to 8 degrees all the time. Now there's a certain amount of truth, and as always there's a little bit of exaggeration. Let's start with the basics. Now insulin comes in 2 different formats. It comes either in a pen format. Now these are the Novo pens, but it also comes from Sanofi Aventis and the Delantis or Eli Lilly. All the pens roughly look the same. I mean, they're ready-made pens that you just inject yourself with, disposable pens, and you just throw them away when they're finished. Okay, and it also comes, especially in the United States, it comes in the form of a little bottle, and this is a little 10 milliliter bottle, which is basically indestructible. But in Europe, most of the insulin is like this, about 85%, and about 15% is like this, and that is mostly canine insulin that's used for animal diabetes. Most of the humans use this kind of insulin. Now, in theory, if this is unopened, you should keep it between 2 to 8 degrees in the fridge, just as a standard storage, because at between 2 to 8 there's zero deperdition of the insulin and will keep basically forever at that temperature. However, when you have a chronic disease such as diabetes, you're kind of defined by your lifestyle, and anything that helps you to be quote unquote normal doesn't have a price. I mean, if you can have a normal lifestyle and your chronic disease does not hamper your normal lifestyle, that's what you're aiming for. So sometimes you have to play with what is recommended, what's possible, what's not possible, what you should do, what you can do, etc., etc. Now there's 3 different solutions, categories of solutions for the transport of insulin, and there's not one of them that's better than the other. It just depends on what your circumstances are, what you're trying to do. Are you trying to climb the Everest? Are you going to bicycle? Are you going on a boat trip? Are you taking the plane? And every solution can be adapted for a specific set of factors. Now, one thing to remember, I mean, even if this should be kept between 2 to 8 degrees, insulin in any format can perfectly well go up to 25 degrees for up to a month without any loss of strength. To give you a scientific explanation, at 27 degrees your insulin will lose 14% of its effectiveness over a period of 1 month. Right? So if you suddenly go up to 27, it doesn't mean that you've lost 14%. If you leave it at 27 degrees for a whole month, then you will lose 14% of its effectiveness. And at 32 degrees, it will lose 18% of its effectiveness over a period of 1 month. So you see, it is quite robust. I mean, you can actually treat it like a normal medication. You just basically have to try to keep it always under 25 degrees. 25 degrees is your maximum threshold for a period of 1 month. So as I said earlier, there's 3 different solutions. The most popular solution worldwide is what we call the Easy Bag. Okay, now the Easy Bag works on evaporation. This is the Easy Bag that I make. Okay, that's my logo here. It's quite a cute logo with a man coming out of the circle. Here, I'm trying to put my finger on it. Okay. Now the Easy Bag is quite simple. You're going to hate me when I tell you how it works. Right. Inside the Easy Bag is a little blue bag. Now you just soak inside this bag is a specially formulated polymer that will absorb 600 times its quantity of water when you soak it in just plain tap water. You just open the cold water tap in your kitchen, soak this in water for about 40 seconds, and it will absorb 600 times its quantity of water. It'll become like a cooling gel. And then once it's absorbed all the water and become cool, you just stick it back in the special compartment that's here, all right? And then you stick your insulin inside, there's little pockets here that you can stick every insulin pen inside, like this, you see? And then you just close it, and this will keep your insulin cool for 7 days. It will keep it between 16 to 25 degrees, which is more than enough for when you're traveling. Don't forget that what you're trying to do is to specifically keep it under 25 degrees. This will keep it between 16 to 25 degrees and will basically avoid all those accidents. You know, when you're in a temperature of 35 degrees in a heat wave, it will still keep it under the threshold of 25. Basically how it works, as I said, you're going to kill me when I tell you how it works. If you want to do a simple test, do like this. Just lick the back of your hand and blow on it. See how cool that feels? Well, that's exactly how this works. Right? It's evaporation. Evaporation cools down anything around it. So this is basically what I call the Easy Bag, which comes in different formats. Here we have the Easy Bag Single, all right, which in theory keeps only one pen, but in practice you can actually put 2 pens inside, no problem. All right, so I use it for a Novo pen and a Lentus, and you can use this, walk around. This is quite useful for when you're doing hikes. Now the Easy Bag Single, because it's smaller, will only keep it between 16 to 25 degrees for 5 days. But still, 5 days is more than enough. Again, big advantage of this technology is you don't need any electricity, because one way or another you always have access to water. If you don't have tap water, use Perrier, use Evian. That's really chic, all right? And then you can keep your insulin cool using your bottled water. It doesn't matter what, as long as it stays cool, it will keep your insulin. As long as it stays wet, it will keep your insulin cool. So this is today the world's most popular technology for diabetes, and it's the thing that every diabetic should have, even if he travels just to go to the office. You just keep your insulin this all the time just to be safe. It just doesn't hurt to have this. It's cheap, and I think the cost of this is between 30 to 40 euro, depending on what the model you buy. So it's really a worthwhile investment for any diabetic to have this. Now the second technology is something that you certainly know already, is what you call an ice pack technology. You have an ice pack that you stick in a freezer, freeze it, and then you stick it inside a container and you put your insulin together with that container. Now historically, I remember we used to buy those things 10, 15 years ago. They were made by Chinese people who were evidently not diabetic, because they were incredibly badly designed. They were cheap products, and now we've basically re-looked the entire industry. And an ice pack has got a fundamental set of flaws. One is that when you freeze it, it's made with water and antifreeze, and the problem is it only lasts for 4 to 5 hours until it's defrosted. And secondly, when it defrosts, when it unfreezes, there's condensation that forms around it, and everything gets wet inside your bag, which is really, really irritating. Trust me on this. So now what we've done is we've reformulated these bags, which are quite cool. You can see the logo here. That's my brand, Medactive. Okay, and now I've made a specially formulated polymer that'll stay frozen for about 11 hours, so twice as long as a normal ice pack. And because I put a layer of PVC around it like this, not only does it look totally cool and feel nice, but there's no condensation. So this does not get wet when it defrosts, which is totally amazing. Trust me on this. Right, so apart from that, it's just a standard ice pack. You freeze it. It takes 6 hours to freeze. Then you put it in the special compartment. Now, this generation of products, I call them the iCool, which is quite a nice name. And so you take the ice pack, you put it inside the special compartment, close the zip. Now in this compartment here, you put your insulin next to the ice pack, and that'll keep this particular model, which is called the iCool Weekender, will keep your insulin cool for about 12 hours, between 2 to 8 degrees. And underneath you have a compartment where you can put your glucose meter, your needles, your injector pens, blah blah blah, all the other kind of crap that you normally travel with when you're a diabetic. So this is called the iCool Weekender. And again, the iCools comes in different shapes and sizes. This is what I call the iCool Prestige. Now the iCool Prestige, it's not a question of cost. They basically all cost the same. Now this is really for the big traveler. You can see you have much more space inside. You can put up to 15 pens inside. It'll keep it between 2 to 8 degrees for 24 hours. So this is really useful for those long trips to Australia, those long legs when you're crossing the world. So this is, all right. So this is the iCool range. Let me recapitulate. We first had what we call the Easy Bag range, which works just with plain water. Then we have the iCool range, which works with ice packs. And then we have the third range, which I call the Medi-Fridge. Now the Medi-Fridge I started making a few years ago after an incident where my brother's incident got frozen in a hotel by some moron at the hotel who didn't understand my brother, and he gave him the insulin to keep in the fridge and he put it in the freezer by mistake. So at 11 o'clock at night they had to open the night pharmacy. It was a big problem. Eventually we finally managed to get some insulin. The problem was sorted, but it was a real pain for everybody. So what we did, we said, oh well, let's make our own fridge. Let's make a new little fridge that you can carry along with you. So we came up with what you call the Medi-Fridge. Now the Medi-Fridge is now today the world's smallest fridge. You can plug it either in the car or in the cigarette lighter or in the normal electricity. It's delivered with all the connections, all the cables, and it's particularly useful for those long trips in the car. I actually have one in the car, but I must tell you I hardly ever take it out of the car. Right? You plug it in the cigarette lighter, it goes underneath the seat of the car. It takes 10 to 15 minutes to get to the right temperature, so when you start the car. And inside you can put up to 3 pens. So it's quite useful for when you do those 12-hour legs trips on a hot summer's day down to the south of France. And you just put your insulin inside, and it always keeps it between 2 to 8 degrees. Now, one simple thing to remember as well is that this is basically the same thing as your fridge at home. It does not have a battery inside. So when you unplug it, it will actually start heating up again. It will keep it cool for about an hour and a half, well, an hour and a quarter, because of the residual coolness. But apart from that, once you actually unplug it, it just starts heating up. So if you know you're going to have to unplug, then you really should have one of these kind of solutions as a backup for when you're going to do other things. Again, what I said earlier at the beginning of this presentation, there's not one product that is better than the other. Any one of these products will do. I personally tend to prefer the simpler solutions, all right, like the Easy Bag, but every solution is good. It just depends on what kind of trip that you're going to do. Right. If you have any questions at all about this subject, or you want to have more information about the products, my website is www.medactive.com. It's medactiv.com, and you'll find all the information on the products. Don't hesitate to write to me if you have any questions about the subject, and I hope that I've answered any questions that you might have about traveling with diabetes. You have a wonderful day then. Bye.